everyone, I'm Rebecca Fenton, the editorial director at ForceBrands. You're watching Start It Sunday, our professional development series designed to motivate you for the week ahead. So that means if you have the Sunday scaries, you're in the right place. So I'm really thrilled to be joined with Laura Garnett again. She's a performance strategist, TEDx speaker, and author of The Genius Habit. Laura, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you? It's good to be back.
I know. So last time we spoke, we talked about finding your inner genius, and then we opened it up to our audience for them to ask questions. So I have some questions for you submitted from our audience, a handful of them from across the country. So I'm going to dive right in. This one comes from Elk in Chicago, and Elk says, "Hey, Laura, I really like the idea that individual performance needs to be appraised through the lens of both individual genius and individual fulfillment. Do you have tips on finding fulfillment in the minutia of a job? For instance, I appreciate getting an attaboy from my boss, but it's much harder to feel fulfilled from, say, improving the size of my brand block on the shelf. Are there ways to discover fulfillment in a job?"
Absolutely. So Elk, first and foremost, what I think is really important is to actually do the work of identifying your purpose and your genius. So you want to know what challenges you intellectually, and then what is the impact on others or in the world that really gives you purpose. And a couple things, knowing that information at a great detail and having that language will help you when you're doing the minutia. So when you're in the process of doing work that isn't challenging you or fulfilling you, you really reference your purpose. And the important thing is that they all somehow tie into the ultimate impact that you're having. So if that's the case, then oftentimes you can manage things that aren't necessarily super challenging, but ultimately are going to get you the impact of your purpose over the long haul. So that's one thing. The second thing I would do is also to buy the Genius Habit, because you'll get information to download the performance tracker. What's really important is to make sure that, I always say 70% of your job, 70% of it is somehow connected to your genius or your purpose. And 30%, and maybe sometimes 40, is some stuff that you always aren't going to be super thrilled about, but make sure that that percentage is weighted towards the positive. And, so that's one thing I would say. And if you start to go in a different direction and 60% of your work is that minutia that you hate, then that's a sign that maybe your job, it's time for a job transition.
And I bet it is challenging too to find jobs that are 100%, where you're not having the daily tasks get in the way. That's just part of work, right?
Yeah. The goal is not to be 100% in your zone of genius. It would say that would be the equivalent of working out and having to be like, at your peak level at all times. It's not realistic. It's not possible, but you want to make sure that the time you are, that you aren't spending most of your time completely devoid of challenge or fulfillment.
Yeah. And a lot of the entrepreneurs I've spoken with who are building these incredible brands in CPG have said it's not all fun. Some of it really is grunt work, and that's just the nature of the beast. But I like the 70%, 30%.
And most people aren't really aware of that percentage. I think that's the key, is that the tracker and the Genius Habit, in a sense, it's a habit of awareness, so that at least you know. And even if you know, hey, I know that most of the time I'm loving this, it makes that other percentage that you can't change even more doable. And, you can kind of deal with it.
Awesome. Okay, well, I hope that's helpful for Elk. The next question I have for you, Laura, comes from Salaha S. in New York. And she says, "I really want to build my own business, a direct-to-consumer products company, but it's really hard to be motivated when you don't have a boss or deadlines. I work best when someone tells me what to do and when to do it by. I'm struggling as an entrepreneur in that I haven't even started anything because I'm lacking that structure. I do not want to be in a corporate job, but I wonder if I'm better suited to work for someone versus myself. Any tips to becoming motivated and staying engaged?"
Yeah. Okay. This is a good question. What I find so interesting about that question is that she answered it in the question. So Salaha, I would say that you really answered the question. You just very beautifully told us all that you're clear that you need structure and that you prefer working with someone that can kind of give you the scope of the work. So I would say to really respond, get connected to yourself and honor what you just told us. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to go to the corporate world, because you're clear you don't. And we're not able to talk to you to understand why that is. But if you're clear that you don't want to be in the corporate world, honor that as well. So I think it's really more about being creative while also staying connected to yourself. There are lots of entrepreneurs or lots of small businesses that are not at all corporate that need people on their team. So I would say, rather than try to force yourself to do something that's not working, really think creatively and start looking for smaller businesses that will be a really good fit for you and that you can be who you are. Because if you're trying to be someone you're not, that's not going to work out well.
All right. This next one for you, Laura, comes from Crystal F. in Oakland, California. Mm-hmm. Crystal had to say, what are the steps to finding your creative genius and purpose?
Okay. So, you definitely should go and purchase The Genius Habit, because in the book, there's a ton of questions. The whole process of you being able to identify this in yourself is in the book. And in just an abbreviation, your genius is the thinking or the problem solving that you're best at, and your purpose is linked to a core emotional challenge that you've had. But ultimately, it helps you understand the impact on the world or on others that's most meaningful to you. And so if you go through all of the exercises in the Genius Habit and you download the performance tracker, you should be able to at least get 80% there within a month. And if not, you should definitely reach out and I can help you there.
And then another one for you, Laura, from New York City, Brittany L. This is what she had to say. When you've been in the same role for a few years, how do you renew your energy and sense of purpose and learn new things?
So I have another question. I wish she was here on the talking with us. So I would say, why are you in the same role? What are your reasons for being in a role where you feel like you're learning and your energy and motivation is gone down? So that's the first question. The second question is, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to change jobs. And this is one of the reasons why I do the work that I'm doing, is that there most likely is there are a lot of things that you can do to shift something. So the fact that you're aware that things aren't working is a great first step. Again, I would also suggest you get the book and learn the Genius Habit, because that's essentially what it can do, which is to help you take power of your situation or take control of it and build your awareness, and then be able to answer all the questions you're having. Why is it that you aren't engaged? Are you bored? Are you having a challenge problem? Are you having a fulfillment problem? And again, once you're clear on your zone of genius, you'll be able to more easily self-diagnose the absence of that and figure out if that's something that could ever work in this role. Are there things that you can proactively do, or projects or work that you can advocate for to your manager that's aligned with who you are, that could immediately create a shift in your job? And again, if you do that and you fill out the tracker and you build the Genius Habit, and 6 months down the road, you're still feeling the way you do now, then that's time to explore another opportunity, which is not always a bad.
Absolutely not. That's what Started Sunday is all about, right? Finding what motivates you and keeps you going. Thank you so much, Laura. So if you guys have more questions for her, please keep them coming. You can email them directly to editor@forcebrands.com or submit them in the form in the article below the video. So thank you again, Laura. It's always so wonderful to hear from you and hear your advice.
Yes, I'm excited for more questions. Bring them on.